She left me because I always assumed she'd leave. I didn't even know I was doing it. Every time she was happy with me, I found a reason to doubt it. Every time she was distant, I turned it into proof. I made her prove herself so many times that eventually she stopped trying. And I called it abandonment. But she didn't abandon me. I pushed her out and called it abandonment.
That voice belongs to someone's ex. Maybe yours. Maybe someone you know. Maybe, and this is the part one want you to sit with, a version of yourself, in a different relationship, with a different ending. Because here is what that man understood, too late, that we are going to spend this entire episode unpacking. The wound came before the relationship. The relationship just gave it somewhere to show up. Welcome back to Before I Do. I'm glad you're here. Episode 1 we asked, whose reasons are driving your desire for marriage? Today we go deeper. Because before you can choose wisely, before you can love well, before you can build something real with another person, you have to know what you are bringing to the table. Not just your gifts. Not just your values. Your unfinished business. Your unexamined rules. Your wounds that have been making decisions on your behalf without telling you. This is episode 2. And I want to say something before we begin. This episode is not about blaming your past. It is not about pathologizing your family or your childhood or the people who hurt you. It is about one thing only, awareness. Because a wound you can name is a wound you can work with. A wound you cannot name is a wound that runs your life. Let's name some wounds. Starting with 3 women who are sitting in the middle of this exact work right now. Attachment theory, what it actually is. In the 1960s and 70s, psychologist John Bowlby observed something simple and devastating. The way we are loved as children or not loved, or inconsistently loved becomes our internal model for what love looks like in adulthood. We don't decide this. We absorb it. The nervous system learns, this is what close relationships feel like. And then it spends the next 4 decades recreating that feeling whether it is healthy or not because familiar is its language. I need to give you a framework and I promise I am going to make it human, not academic, because the last thing I want is for you to feel like you're in a lecture. But I need you to understand attachment theory, because it is possibly the most useful lens you will ever put on your romantic life. So here it is in plain language. There are 4 primary attachment styles. I'm going to describe all 4 and I want you to notice which one your body responds to. Not your brain. Not your self-image. Your body. The one that makes you feel slightly exposed. Psychologists describe 4 main attachment styles that shape how we experience love and relationships. First is the secure attachment style. Secure people trust love. They can be close without fear and communicate their needs openly. This usually develops from consistent and emotionally responsive caregiving during childhood. Second is the anxious or preoccupied style. These individuals deeply crave closeness but constantly fear abandonment. They often overthink delays, seek reassurance, and give too much hoping others won't leave. This can come from inconsistent caregiving, where love felt unpredictable. Third is the avoidant or dismissive style. Avoidant people value independence so strongly that emotional closeness feels uncomfortable. Instead of expressing feelings, they withdraw or intellectualize emotions. This often develops when caregivers were emotionally unavailable or dismissive. Finally, there's the disorganized or fearful avoidant style. Here, love feels both comforting and dangerous at the same time. People may crave intimacy but also fear it, pushing others away while still longing for connection. This is commonly linked to trauma, neglect, or unpredictable caregiving. Understanding attachment styles helps us recognize our relationship patterns, and shows that healing and secure connection are possible. Now, and this is the part most people skip: attachment styles are not personality types. They are not a life sentence. They are learned patterns. And learned patterns can be unlearned, rewired, and replaced. But not if you don't know you have them. And not if the person you are about to marry has a style that, when combined with yours, creates a dynamic that neither of you can name. An anxious person and an avoidant person in a relationship no cap is one of the most exhausting, most common, and most painful pairings in human romantic history. The anxious one pursues. The avoidant one withdraws. The anxious one pursues harder. The avoidant one withdraws further. Neither is cruel. Neither is broken. They are just two wounds dancing together. And calling it chemistry. Key insight for the viewer. Before you evaluate any partner, evaluate yourself. Which style felt uncomfortably familiar? Sit with that. You are not going to solve it right now. You are just going to know it. Knowing it is the beginning of everything. Amara has described herself her entire adult life as low maintenance, independent, and not the type who needs a lot. She has 3 serious relationships behind her, all of which ended with some version of the same complaint from her partners: "You don't let me in." She has never cried in front of a romantic partner. She has also never fully trusted one. She is in therapy for the first time in her life and is, by her own admission, only here because sister threatened me. Amara, your sister said you were reluctant to come. What changed your mind?
She said if I didn't try therapy she was going to start commenting on my Instagram reels. So here I am.
What would you say is the main thing you'd like to work on?
I'm 33. I am successful, I am stable, I have my life together. I just would like, at some point, to be in a relationship that actually works. Previous ones have not.
What happened in the previous ones?
Various versions of the same thing. They felt I was unavailable. Emotionally. Which I think is slightly unfair, because I showed up. I was present. I did the things.
The things?
Dates. Communication. I was a good girlfriend. Practically.
Did any of them cry in front of you?
Yes.
How did that feel?
Uncomfortable. Like I needed to fix it. Fast.
And did any of them ever see you cry?
No.
Why not?
Because I didn't need to.
Or because you didn't feel safe enough to?
I've never thought about those as different things.
30 minutes into the session, I asked Amara about her mother. I asked her to describe one specific memory of being comforted as a child, one moment where she was upset and someone made her feel safe. She tried to find one. She searched. She went back through her childhood the way you search a room for something you were sure you left there. And she could not find one. Not because her mother was cruel, her mother was not cruel. Her mother was a woman who had also learned not to need. Who had also been raised to be the strong one. Who had also absorbed the message that feelings were something you managed, not something you expressed. Her mother had loved her fiercely. And had never once modeled what it looked like to fall apart safely. Amara sat with that for a moment. And then she said something she had never said out loud in her 33 years.
I have never been comforted. Not once. Not really. I've been told I'm strong my whole life and I think it's because no one knew what else to do with me. Because no one had been taught how to do it. So I learned to be the thing they already believed I was. And I've been doing it so long I don't know how to be anything else.
That sentence, "I don't know how to be anything else," is not a statement of defeat. It is an act of extraordinary courage. Because naming it is the first time Amara has separated herself from the armor. The armor is not Amara. Amara is the woman underneath it who has never been comforted and still showed up for 33 years. That woman deserves to receive love, not just project strength. Ji-Yun has a pattern she cannot explain, Every emotionally available man she meets becomes boring to her within 3 weeks. Every emotionally unavailable man becomes an obsession. She has never been in a relationship longer than 8 months. She reads psychology articles between client calls and has a clinical understanding of her own patterns that she has, as yet, been completely unable to act on. Ji-Yun, tell me about the last person you were interested in.
He was my client's lawyer. Brilliant. Completely unavailable, was in the middle of something complicated with his ex, couldn't give me a straight answer about anything. I was completely obsessed with him for 4 months.
And before him?
Similar situation. Different details. There's always a reason he can't quite be present.
Tell me about someone who was fully available. Who showed up without drama.
Marcus. He was genuinely wonderful. Kind. Consistent. Texted back in reasonable time. Asked me how my day was and actually waited for the answer.
What happened?
I found him boring within a month. I kept waiting for something to happen and nothing did. He was just steady.
Steady sounds like a positive quality.
It is. Rationally, I know it is. But steady felt like watching paint dry. I kept looking for the subtext and there wasn't any. What you saw was what you got.
And that felt like?
Like something must be wrong with him. Or like something was wrong with me for not wanting it.
Ji-Yun is a classic anxious avoidant trap, but from the avoidant side. She thinks she is avoidant because she has high standards. She is avoidant because consistency feels foreign to her nervous system. Somewhere along the line her nervous system learned that love is a puzzle to be solved, a thing you earn through performance, a reward that comes only after uncertainty. Marcus was not a puzzle. And without a puzzle to solve, her system did not recognize what she was experiencing as love. This is one of the most painful and most common dynamics I see. A woman who wants love, genuinely, deeply wants it, but whose nervous system can only recognize it when it is wrapped in uncertainty. Because uncertainty was the language of love in her formative years. Maybe a parent who was sometimes warm and sometimes cold. Maybe praise that was unpredictable. Maybe a family system where you never quite knew which version of home you were walking into. Whatever the source. The nervous system learned, if it's calm, it isn't love. Love is the chase. Love is the uncertainty. Love is the ache. Rachel knows the theory. She is a practicing therapist who helps other people with exactly these patterns every day. She is also, privately, running an anxious attachment style in her own life that she has not been able to disrupt despite knowing its every mechanism. She finds this humiliating. It is actually just human. Rachel is a therapist. She can diagnose an anxious attachment in a client in 40 minutes flat. She has explained the anxious avoidant trap to hundreds of people. She can draw the diagram from memory. She knows the polyvagal theory, the window of tolerance, the difference between a trauma bond and genuine chemistry. She also, and I want to say this with enormous tenderness, checks her phone for a specific person's message approximately 40 times a day. And she knows exactly what that is. And she cannot stop.
The funniest and most humbling thing about being a therapist is that knowledge and healing are not the same thing. I know every mechanism of what I'm doing. I know why I'm doing it. I know what early attachment experience is driving it. I know what it would take to shift it. And I still do it. Every single time. Because knowing a pattern and breaking a pattern are two completely different skills. You need both. And I, embarrassingly, only have one.
Rachel's honesty here is the point. Understanding your wound does not automatically heal it. Understanding is step 1 of maybe 100 steps. But it is the step that makes all the others possible. Rachel is not failing. Rachel is in the process. And Rachel, no cap, understood the assignment the moment she admitted she still had work to do. That is what courage looks like from the inside. I want to give you something practical. I want to talk about wound-to-rule conversion. Because this is the mechanism underneath all three of these women's stories, and almost certainly underneath something in your story too. I want you to look at that table and do something very specific. I want you to find the row that feels most personal. Not the one that is most dramatic. Not the one you can most easily assign to someone else. The one that, when you read it, gave you a small physical sensation, a tightening, a recognition, a slight wish to skip to the next section. That is your row. That is your homework from the universe. You don't have to fix it today. You just have to look at it. You just have to say, there it is. There's the rule I've been running on. There is the thing that has been making decisions for me since I was 12 years old, and I didn't even know it was still in the building. I want to talk about something that doesn't come up often enough. The difference between healing and performing healed. Because in the era of therapy speak and self-awareness content and, I did the work, as an identity statement, there is a version of healed that is just a more sophisticated armor. It uses different language. It knows all the right words. But underneath the vocabulary, the same wound is still running the same rule. You can know that you have an anxious attachment and still check your phone every 3 minutes for someone who hasn't earned that level of your attention. You can know that you have an avoidant pattern and still find every available person boring and every unavailable one irresistible. You can know, like Rachel, every mechanism of your behavior, and still do it, Tuesday after Tuesday, feeling privately humiliated that knowing is not the same as changing. This is not failure. This is the full truth of what healing actually is. Healing is not a moment. It is not a revelation. It is not the day you found the word for what was wrong with you. Healing is the 10,000 small moments where you notice the old rule firing, the pull toward the unavailable person, the urge to make yourself small, the shutting down when someone tries to reach you, and you pause. You notice it. You name it. And then, slowly, imperfectly, in increments so small they are almost invisible, you choose differently. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You've heard that. But what I want to add, what I think matters even more, is this: you cannot fill anyone else's if yours has a crack you've been refusing to look at. The crack is not shameful. Every cup has cracks. But you have to see it. You have to know where it is. Because a crack you ignore becomes the shape of every relationship you will ever pour yourself into. You are watching this course. That means you are looking. That means the crack is already being seen. We move. Amara. You said you had something you wanted to start with today.
Yes. I cried. In front of someone. In front of Devin, the man I'd been seeing. We were watching something on television and something about it, I don't even remember what it was, and I just started crying. Not sobbing. Just tears. And I didn't immediately make a joke. I just let it happen.
What did Devin do?
He put his arm around me. That's all. He didn't make it a big deal. He didn't ask 100 questions. He just put his arm around me.
And how did that feel?
Like something I didn't know I was starving for. Like I'd been holding my breath for 33 years and someone finally said it was okay to breathe.
That is it. That is the whole thing. Not the revelation. Not the breakthrough. Not the dramatic therapy moment. A woman letting herself cry. A man putting his arm around her. 33 years of armor, and it started to come down, not all at once, not in a cinematic moment, but in a Tuesday night on a sofa where she finally, for the first time, let herself be held. Amara's healing era is not over. It is just beginning. But it has begun. And beginning is everything. Episode 2 Assignment. Set aside 30 uninterrupted minutes. This is not a quick exercise. Take it seriously. Part 1. Name your attachment style. Based on the 4 styles described in this episode, secure, anxious, avoidant, disorganized, which one feels most like you in romantic relationships? Not the one you aspire to. The one you actually recognize in your behavior. Write it down. Write the specific behaviors in your past relationships that support that identification. Part 2. Name your 3 relationship fears. Complete this sentence 3 times, with 3 different endings. In relationships, I am most afraid that. Do not filter. The fear that feels most embarrassing to write is usually the most important one. Part 3. Trace it to age 12 or before. Take each fear and ask, where did I first learn this? Where in my childhood or early adolescence was I given evidence that this fear was reasonable? You are not blaming anyone. You are just following the thread back to its origin. Write what you find. Part 4. The Wound to Rule Audit. Look at the Wound to Rule table from this episode. Identify your row. Then write, what decision have I made because of this rule in the last 12 months? One relationship decision, a choice you made, a person you chose or avoided, a pattern you repeated, that was this rule operating. Name it. No judgment. Just acknowledgement. Bonus, the comforting memory search. Like Amara. Try to find one specific memory of being comforted as a child. One moment when you were upset and someone made you feel genuinely safe. If you find one, describe it. If you cannot find one, write about what that search felt like. Both answers are valid. Both answers are data. One final thing. If this episode brought up something heavy, something that felt bigger than a journaling exercise can hold, please reach out to a mental health professional. Not because something is wrong with you. Because you deserve to do this work with proper support. This course is a mirror. Therapy is a guide. Ideally you have both. The comments section is also here, full of women doing exactly this same work. You are not alone in it. Amara let someone put his arm around her. Ji-Yun wrote down the name Marcus and sat with why she found goodness boring. Rachel, the therapist who helps people heal all day long, admitted she is still in the middle of her own work. These are not failures. These are 3 women who are, right now, in the most important work of their lives. And so are you. Episode 3 is where we take everything you've learned about yourself in these first 2 episodes, your reasons, your wounds, your rules, and we put them next to someone else. Episode 3 is about the ick, the deal-breaker list, the red flags you've been explaining away. It is the episode where we figure out whether your standards are protecting you or performing for an audience. It is a very different kind of conversation. And you are going to want to see it. Subscribe if you haven't. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a piece of your assignment in the comments. I read them, I mean that. And I will see you in episode 3.